podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Here, we love talking about everything Batman. The BatmanUniverse.net has news, original content, and reviews about Batman comics, movies, TV shows, video games, and more. Check out the BatmanUniverse.net and join our Discord server to start chatting with fellow fans. We can't wait to talk to you guys. Also, visit our Patreon page and join our other awesome supporters. But enough of this nonsense. On with the show.
Hello and welcome to the Batman Universe Comic Podcast, Season 15, Episode 14. This is Ian.
This is Dev.
And this is Theo.
And we are reviewing Night Terrors, Weeks 3 and 4. Primary episode, of course, is Detective Comics, but we'll also be covering all the books that came out in the last couple weeks that are part of Night Terrors and the other books that are part of the Batman Universe. But before that, San Diego Comic-Con was this last weekend, and it had a couple of announcements for the Batman Universe, and also solicits came out today. This is Tuesday, releasing on Friday, of course. So in solicits, we had the announcement of a new alternate universe crossover with the Warner Brothers monster movie series, and that's called Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong. This is written by Brian Buccellato, and he is a colorist and writer who worked on Detective Comics and Flash with Francis Manapul and the Injustice series when Tom Taylor left that series. What do you guys think about Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong?
That sounds fun. That sounds like a rip-roaring fun time.
Since I'm not a fan of the current iterations of Kong and Godzilla, I'm not sure how I'll feel about this. Now, if this was 70s Godzilla and 70s, 80s King Kong, then I'll be more interested.
I think I say this as someone who has watched all of the movies in the series. I don't understand why they think this would be helpful to either brand. It's clear from the information they've released that this is an alternate universe to both universes. So it's not canon to the movies and it's not canon to the comics. So it doesn't actually matter. So it's purely going to be selling on the concept and execution. And while I think Brian Buccellato is a decent writer, he doesn't really excite me. And who's on art again? Christian Duce. I actually really like Christian Duce as an artist, but like, if they really wanted this to sell a lot, I feel like they should have put, like, a Jim Lee or, I don't know. Who else could sell this? Dan Mora? Like, they should have put one of their big people on, but the big people are already super busy, so they're not. So I don't know. This is clearly something that was made as a licensing deal with Warner Brothers, the parent company. So it just doesn't quite really excite me. Even the idea of they're basically doing the thing like they have those greeting cards that play music. Well, they're doing that with the Godzilla roar and the Kong roar. So when you open the cover, it makes the roar.
That's fun. I think it sounds like a cute, fun idea.
Do you think it sounds cuter and funner than Jurassic League or about the same?
Hopefully better. Jurassic League was terrible.
I thought it was just kind of boring.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's a comic. It's supposed to be entertaining.
But see, if Daniel Warren Johnson had done the drawing, I think it would have been a lot better. I think the problem was that Daniel Warren Johnson's much better when he draws his own stuff.
I shall find out. When does it come out?
October. Yeah. We also got an odd little announcement of a new Black Label book called Batman City of Madness, written and illustrated by Christian Ward, who's been doing a bunch of DC projects. He did I believe, a DC project with Ram V, which was like Aquaman Deep Water or something. I still haven't read that, which I should because I enjoy Aquaman and he hasn't had any books recently. What do you think about this 3-issue Prestige? So it's basically like 6 issues in length miniseries Batman City of Madness.
It looks like Gotham City, the Upside Down.
The Stranger Gotham things.
The Stranger Gotham things. I don't know. Whatever. I think it's cashing in on a thing. I mean, what isn't, but they couldn't do Batman and Barbie, so they're doing Batman Stranger Things.
Why couldn't they do Batman Barbie?
Because they're cowards, Ian. They're cowards. That's why.
They could do Wonder Woman Barbie.
No, they're cowards. Can they do Mattel? I don't know.
I mean, Warner Brothers is the one that's releasing Barbie.
Oh, well, then they shouldn't do that. Once they do Barbie, Batman, call me. No, I don't care.
So I only saw the tweet, so I didn't look too much into it. I usually will read stuff like that once either the DC blog post or they send out a release. So, like I said, I just saw the tweet earlier. And, the cover looks nice, but again, it was just a quick glance type of thing. So I will reserve judgment.
I just am tired of them giving primarily artists books without a co-writer because I still continue to be deeply unimpressed with 90% of those outputs, and they tend to be forgotten in months, if not days.
Unless a Batawang shows up.
But that's only remembered for the Batawang.
That's true. True fact.
I don't think it's even remembered for that now.
I remember it for that.
I remember it for that. It'll live on in our hearts.
Something that's not an announcement, but sort of a question inspired by Solicit says they've announced a return of Superman 30th anniversary, sort of as a sequel to the death of Superman 30th anniversary last fall. Do you think they're going to do a Batman Nightfall 30th anniversary next year? What do you think?
No, I'm a newer Bat fan, so I've only really read and been conscious of this world since 2018. And, other than obvious references to the Nolan movie, and the Tom King run, there really isn't that much emphasis on it. I don't know if it's
Well, there's not that much emphasis on Death of Superman either.
I suppose.
Doomsday's kind of a one-off villain, even though they've tried to bring him back.
I don't know. Maybe. If you're going for nostalgic content, I guess you can do that.
Well, it's basically seeming to take the place of those, 75th and 80th anniversary editions they were doing a couple years ago. Those 100-page giants. The ones that took so freaking long to review because they're 100 pages.
Never put any thought into it, but if it's about $1, I'm pretty sure they're considering it.
That's true.
I think that since they've now done a Death of Superman and Superman Returns, it feels like 100% certainty they're going to do it. We'll see if they bring back people. They have brought Chuck Dixon back for both the Robin and the Catwoman anniversaries, so I could see them bringing him back. But it's a little different because Dan Jurgens is still actively working at DC pretty much all the time. So this would feel more like it would be different. And I don't even know if Doug Mensch is still alive. I think he is, but he's not working. And Alan Grant has died, sadly. And Denny O'Neil, of course, has died.
Unless he died in the last year or so, I think Doug is still alive, only because...
He's really old.
Yeah, only because I was looking at... Someone was doing a signing event with him.
Yeah. So I think I did see something like that, too. But I'm pretty sure he's not really writing that much.
Oh, no. The guy that does this event is the only guy that does it. I guess they have like a personal relationship, and he puts one on every year.
Sure. Now, in terms of artists, they could get Graham Nolan because he's still very much working, and Kelly Jones is still working all the time. I think a lot of the other artists, I don't really remember who they were, other than Nolan and Jones, who worked on Nightfall. Tom Grummett's still around. He'd be cool. I mean, he's doing the Superman anniversary stuff. I don't know. I think it would be cool. I think it's a good idea, and I would definitely buy it. Although if they didn't get Dixon back, I would be a little suspicious. I'd be like, you're doing Nightfall and no Dixon? What's going on? We also had a bunch of panels at San Diego Comic-Con. One of them announced that we are getting an Outsiders 12-issue miniseries, so not an ongoing, but 12 issues, starring Batwoman, Batwing, and a new version of the drummer from the Wildstorm series, Planetary. And this is unfortunately not by Brandon Thomas, but it is by Colin Kelly and Jason Lansing, who did the really good One Bad Day Clayface one-shot recently. And they are also doing the Batman Beyond Neo Year and Neo Gothic. So other than the fact that it's not Brandon Thomas, what do you think of this announcement? Because we're all disappointed. Let's just take it as read that we are disappointed that it's not Brandon Thomas.
Who else is in it?
It's just those three so far.
Who's the third one?
It's a Wildstorm character, sort of like that.
That's all disappointing. That whole thing is disappointing. It's not Brandon Thomas. It's not Duke Thomas. And it's not...
I mean, if it's not Brandon Thomas, I don't want it to be Duke Thomas.
That's
because he's the only one who can write Duke Thomas.
No, good point. I have zero opinion on it. Because what we wanted was that book. And this is not what we got. We're getting something else. I mean, it's kind of like... Oh, crap. What are we getting? We're getting a Birds of Prey. That's like, what?
That has one person on Birds of Prey.
So it's like, these are team books that you're just making up teams. You're just making up teams. Whatever. It'll be what it'll be. I don't know what to think. I have zero opinion on it because it's not what I wanted. So I didn't prepare my emotions for this one. So whatever.
Yeah, no interest. Again, it wasn't the character. I mean, it wasn't the writer that we all pushed for. So,
and it wasn't the team we pushed for. So it's like, what?
So, I feel like you probably would know this, but I actually am somewhat excited about this because I do like Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. I love Batwing and I love Batwoman, and I actually really love Planetary. This is not actually the drummer from Planetary, so I don't really know what they're doing, but I like that character. So I like all of the ingredients. I will agree completely with my co-host that this is a big disappointment in terms of what they set us up to expect. But I am here for it. I'm hoping that this will be another like Batman Inc., where it's like could be just something we weren't looking for, but it turns out to be just really well executed. I think I like the artist. I can't. Let me take a. Oh wait, this was in a panel. It's actually not coming out until like November. So let me see who's writing. Artist is Robert Carey, who I don't know, but looks cool. I am actually excited for this. So I am excited to give this a chance, even though I do agree that it could suck. We found out that the fall, probably going into winter arc of Detective Comics will be 4 issues of an intermezzo, keeping with the music theme of Detective Comics, starring cowboys who rescue Batman. And this is still Ron V, but it'll be new artists. So what do you, because Yvonne Reis is doing
something else.
Beast World. Something about Beast Boy becoming Jarro. It sounds dumb.
What was it called?
Beast World.
No, the one you're talking about.
Oh, this is Detective Comics. This is an arc about. It's called Batman Outlaw. It's going to be an intermezzo, so it's going to still be part of it, but it's going to be like a flashback or something. And cowboys are going to save Batman.
Oh my gosh! Ramvi has to earn his Bat Trust back. He's lost my Bat Trust. So I am not excited, but I am looking forward to him groveling and earning back his bad trust.
I'm kind of over him.
Yeah.
He still has talent. I mean, I still am enjoying reading a lot of Detective Comics, but he hasn't persuaded me to read Vigil. And the more he puts them in Detective Comics, the way he's putting in Detective Comics, the less I'm interested in reading them. So, plus I am. When you say that Batman is going to be saved by cowboys after Batman has spent the last year being helpless and failing, I feel like those guys who constantly complained about James Tynion and Tom King's runs of Batman and Detective Comics, because they're like, why does Batman always fail? Why can't Batman do it by himself? I'm like, I liked those runs, but I feel like saying the same thing about what Ron V is doing. Like, why does Batman always fail? Why is Batman such an idiot? Why does he need to be saved by cowboys? Why couldn't Batman be the one saving the cowboys?
I feel like there's a difference between Batman struggling and Batman needing to lean on his family and Batman just being
saved by cowboys.
The victim of circumstance and just letting things happen and being an idiot and failing. I don't know.
No, I agree. I'm frustrated. Like that is not how you sell me on this.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm wrong, Theo? Should I be more open?
Like I said, I'm kind of over him. So
okay. So unfortunately, the panel continues to not be super excited about Detective Comics.
Meow.
Wah wah.
I am excited about Mariko Tamaki doing the Supergirl.
Yes, I just read Being Super like a couple months ago, and it was really good. So this could be really good, even though it's obviously a different universe. But good to see her doing stuff at DC again. It's been a while. Way too long. I don't know why I didn't immediately put her on something big. Maybe she was working on a book project. I know she's also a, novelist, so possible she wasn't available. Last little bit of news. I am really curious what you guys think about this. We got some news about Batman and Robin by Joshua Williamson. We learned that Damian's going to be going to school, although we don't know which one. I'm hoping it's Gotham Academy because, I love maps, and Damian and maps is great. White Rabbit is going to be a supporting character, which maybe means more crazy art term covers for me.
So gross.
And lastly, there's going to be a new villain called, this is not made up, Shush. And it's a female version of Hush.
What is it? Shush?
Shush.
SH.
USH.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like a bad joke.
It was, but they decided to do it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Lord.
What do you think about the Batman and Robin news?
Damian is a young man. Having a lady like White Rabbit. Whatever. Corrupt my young man. It's fine.
He's 14.
He's a baby.
14-year-old baby.
Whatever. It sounds fun. It sounds like I'll take whatever Damian I can get. So it sounds fantastic. It's my favorite. I love it.
Did they reveal the age of this person?
They did not.
What if Shush is Hush's kid? And it's the same. He's she, they, them, it with the same age as Damian. Kind of.
Well, Shush is a girl because it's explicitly a female version of Hush.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's gonna be kind of in the same ilk, I guess. Of what was blonde Damian's name?
Connor Hawk?
No. Deathstroke's son that he didn't know he had.
Oh, geez. Did that guy even have a name?
His lab baby.
Respawn. Oh, yeah, Respawn.
It's going to be like
he
Respawn.
was dead after like 5 issues, so it did not matter.
Everyone was sad. Well, Damian was sad, and that's all I care about.
I was not sad because that was a terrible issue.
Well, the only thing I would be interested if is Shush brings back either Livewire or Maya. And
Yeah.
then we have a love triangle fight.
I think this all sounds fun. I've given my hopes, but I would say this sounds like it's still along the lines of what Williamson did in Robin. So I'm here for it until I'm not. I guess that's everything, but like I'm excited about it. Take that as you will, since I'm also excited about Outsiders. All right. Okay, so Night Terrors #2, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Giuseppe Camuncoli, Stefano Nessi, and Casper Wingard, which is the guy who did that frozen lady therapist story that I hated with my whole heart on Detective Comics. But I did like the art, so
I like the art on that one.
yeah, the art wasn't the problem. It was Cy Spurrier writing jackasses.
Tell us how you really feel.
Anyway, so Batman's still being possessed by Boston Brand, so it's not really strongly connected to Batman. It's very much a DC Universe / Justice League type story. We found out more about Insomnia, how he was being held in Arkham Tower, and then the Lazarus Planet event had the Lazarus Rain hit him, and also Wesley Dodds talks about this great evil that he discovered when he was finding the Nightmare Stone, like in World War II times. It was like a very Cthulhu type cult. And it ends up with all of the robots being sort of possessed by insomnia and becoming the Sleepless Knights. And that's kind of cool. Very scary, but cool. Not super Batman related, but since we are trying to keep up with the events, since this entire 2 months are about Night Terrors, what do you think of Night Terrors #2?
I think of this batch of reading, I think this was probably one of my favorite. It was very interesting. It was about the actual story.
Yeah, I would say it moved the story forward. We got lots of information.
Yep. No, I would, definitely one of my favorites of the week for sure.
I think it went exactly how it should have. Only considering in the next month now, we are getting the second part of the individual titles, which I would assume folks are gonna start waking up or something, and so they had to get more of the story out here in order to align what is likely to come beginning I think the second issues start next week.
They start the first week of August, so I think so.
Yeah,
I think Tuesday is the first.
So I think it moved it pretty well. It's going to be interesting to see what Night Terrors look like, because again, Batman is typically in the first week of August, and again, if this is the second issue, I would assume again, like, folks are going to start waking up or something that would lead one to believe that the story has really moved forward.
Right, so they can participate in the finale. Unless it's just going to be like 3 dudes versus, that wouldn't feel like a big event. Yeah, I'd say it was fun. I liked all the art. I didn't think it meshed super well, but it also wasn't like Poison Ivy, where everyone felt like they were in a completely different book. And I kind of like the scary thing at the end where all the robots are either captured or possessed by these Sleepless Knights. That was kind of a cool, scary thing.
It was, because you kind of kept your hope up that, at least the robot heroes can do something. And I was like,
nope. That would make it a little too easy. We still have 2 issues plus a finale to go. Since this really didn't have much to do with the Batman universe, I think we're just going to move on to our Detective Comics review. So we will start with Detective Comics, the Night Terrors Detective Comics, written by Dan Waters and illustrated by Riccardo Federici. The Good People of Gotham, Part 1. At the grave of his son, Jim Gordon feels snow in July. After getting a text from Babs, he goes home to the boy's sorrow with pizza. Sorrow senses powerful entities being summoned to Gotham. These three beings see that they are being summoned to Insomnia's dream world. Sorrow jumps out the window to stop the beings, and Jim follows. They find three masked Gothamites who summoned the beings, asking for gifts to save Gotham: might, wealth, and knowledge. The beings grant them gifts, leading to one of the summoners obliterating Sorrow when he attacks. Jim, distraught, is knocked out, but not killed. When he wakes, he calls Harvey about the good people of Gotham, the Summoners. Harvey says that Rookie, the Batman armor/robot Jim wore and worked with in the Super Heavy storyline, is active in Gotham again. Punching a wall, Jim discovers his body is brittle like glass. Following the trail of 7 bodies, he finds the Night Terror Rookie, but trying to shoot his gun breaks his fragile wrist. Night Terror Rookie says Jim should help him save Gotham, then leaves for more quote-unquote justice. Jim tries to follow, but his foot snaps. He sees the beings and rages that he didn't want a gift. They are confused. Following the name Night Terror's Rookie gave him, Jim confronts Angelica Vanderbar, wealthy tax evader, but finds that she asked for wealth and now vomits diamonds, cutting her from the inside out. When Jim tries to clear her airway, his fingers break off. The beings watch, amused. So this issue goes deep into multiple types of body horror. How do you feel about that?
Uncomfortable, Ian. Uncomfortable. I feel like there were a couple of issues this week, maybe 3, that really embodied what I think like of as a dream, and like the dreamy type imagery and the things that happen to you and you don't even kind of blink an eye, and Jim's body falling apart and becoming glass-like was definitely one of those things where it was just like, oh crap, I don't have an arm anymore, and you don't even really think about it too much in your dream. So I thought that was interesting.
This was probably the most nightmare of stories from the standpoint of what one would think of when thinking of a night with an with an N, mare. Yeah, and as a person who isn't a horror fan, it wasn't great for me just because of how close it embodied what a nightmare would look like to me.
So you would say it was effective, but maybe too effective?
I think it was a little bit too effective.
Okay.
Like, I wouldn't read this during the evening.
Seems fair. Do the connections to the
You need to answer your question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I just imagining myself like breaking apart like Jim does is terrifying. Like, it's just really scary. So I tend to agree. It was a lot. Do the connections to the superheroes super heavy storyline by Scott Snyder seem interesting or well done to you?
So full disclosure, this was the last book I read, and I totally forgot, and I hurry up and finished it before we got on together. So I haven't had time to like sit down and chew this over. But obviously this is a Gordon book, and this is a Gordon fear book. He finds himself at James Gordon Jr.'s grave thinking about both his children. He's retired now, and now his body is falling apart. He's dealing with fragility, and now he's coming face to face with almost a nightmare version of what arguably was his best version of himself, crime fighting wise, like when he was Jim Batts. And so there's a lot in here about Gordon. This is a Gordon book. So whether or not I think it was well done, whether or not I liked it, it was very interesting seeing that this is about Gordon facing himself, facing his fears for himself. So like
his job, his one and only job right now in Gotham is to take care of Sorrow, and he fails at that within the first few pages of the book. So obviously this is just all of Jim's insecurities and whatever's bubbling and being his nightmare. It almost doesn't seem like what's his butt? The guy looking for the rock doesn't even show up in this one. This is just Jim having a nightmare. Insomnia doesn't even show up in this book. This is just Jim dealing.
I mean, they mention him.
They do mention him.
A few of those characters looked like him, but I didn't think it was him either. But what was the question again, Ian? I missed it.
Do you like the connections to Super Heavy in this book?
I enjoyed seeing Rookie again. You can never get too much.
I thought it was a really interesting exploration because the whole idea of Jim Gordon, the commissioner of police, becoming Batman, like a public Batman who was funded by the city and had a city mandate. It wasn't actually that controversial back in 2015 when it started. It would definitely be a lot more controversial now. And I think that's sort of what Dan Waters is playing with, but not too blatantly. There were definitely some writers who pushed harder at it than others. It's tricky because I don't know if this is all in Jim's dream or if like the good people of Gotham and Sorrow and Jim are all in the same dream together. It would make some sense if it were all in Jim's dream because so much of what happens is linked to his own experience. You know, obviously Rookie is a big part of his experience, and also he has this history with this Angelica character. So my personal leaning right now is that all the Super Heavy stuff is because it's from Jim's dream, but I could be wrong. Would you prefer it to be all Jim's dream, or would you prefer them to be trapped in a dream together like Tim and Jason are?
I don't know. I don't think I have much in the way of expectations or preferences for a lot of these stories because so many of them have nothing to do with moving the story forward. They're just fallout from the world being what it is. So I'm just here for interesting stories. So whatever makes this the most interesting, that is what I want.
Or this, I don't care simply because they had to do, I figured they had to do something in the world of Detective Comics for Night Terrors. And, you know, since Batman's nightmare is already going on in the pages of Batman. And so this is what they came up with.
Yeah. And the weird and frustrating thing for me about that is that they don't have a Batgirl or Batgirls Night Terrors miniseries. So Babs is showing up in a ton of these. So she's showing up in Nightwing and Punchline and Detective Comics. But I'm pretty sure she's not. I think that's all Dream Babs. I don't think it's actually Babs in any of those. So it feels really frustrating. And the same thing, of course, goes for Stephanie and Cassandra, who I am more concerned with. But it makes sense for Babs to be referenced here. But I think it's a Dream Babs. I don't think it's real Babs. So that's kind of a bummer.
What if Punchline
is the one with real Babs?
Is the real Babs?
That would be so random. Also very stupid, but I would kind of respect their balls. I don't think that's actually the case, but
I don't think that's the case.
It would be ballsy. How do you like the very realistic sort of hyper rendered artistic style?
Oh, it definitely adds to the nightmare ickiness of it. This definitely would not have the same effect if it was a more cartoony art style. Which does work for some of the nightmares. Like the Harley Quinn one was a little more cartoony and a little bit more completely random. In fact, it feels like, I didn't pay attention if it was, it feels like different artists in that book, but because of the nature of that nightmare, it makes sense. Whereas this definitely, it is the realism of a cartoon crack in your hand and like the fleshy bits coming out. Wouldn't have the same effect if it wasn't realistic looking. So definitely for this nightmare, it makes sense, and it's definitely more effective to be more realistic.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like Federici. I think this is a well-chosen story for his work. Last question. Do you think that the entities / pentapriests are real or part of Insomnia's creation?
They could also just be part of his nightmare.
Right.
What do you mean real?
Well, do you think that they're like hyperdimensional beings, or do you think that they're just part of Jim's fears?
I think they're just part of Jim's fears.
Okay. I mean, that would make sense. I'm just curious what your read was, you know?
I mean, it could be that all of these are kind of nudged by insomnia, for sure. I'm not seeing a connective thread between what insomnia is doing and how he's looking for the rock or the stone and what people are seeing. I don't know.
I think that there is a chance it could be real as the figures that showed up in Zatanna's story, who are most definitely real because they too mention, working for insomnia in some instance. So I think that there are some instances where some of these beings are actually true.
I kind of hope they're real because I am not a huge fan of just one dream. Just because that kind of thing just is so easily ignored. But if there's, especially since this is already like spiritual, like supernatural, semi-demonic threat from insomnia, I think it would be cooler if it actually had connection to real semi-demonic forces. And also I like when the characters are in dreams together because it means it matters more because two people are experiencing it. So I hope they're real. I just don't know. I could see it not being real.
There are two narrations, though.
That's true.
There are two distinctly different voices, and so who knows?
This is a long story, no backup, but it's a full 28 pages of story. So let us give this a rating out of 5 stomach diamonds.
Gross.
Anything picked from this as a rating is going to be gross.
They could just be shiny diamonds.
Okay.
Or pizzas.
Sure.
I didn't. Okay. I don't know. This wasn't one of my favorites, but as far as like a nightmare goes, this was an interesting exploration of Jim Gordon. The art, again, absolutely awesome if you like it. If you like what he's drawing awesomely. So I really struggled with this one. I'll say 3, but just because nightmare gore isn't my chosen entertainment. But it's very well done for something that I wouldn't choose to read. So 3.
I will say 2.5, only because it was the most realist of the issues this time around. And again, I am not a big horror fan, so it scared the hell out of me, and I deduct on that. But if not, it would probably have been a 3 also.
So this was a 3.25 for me. I liked the art. I liked the writing. It was extremely disturbing. But I don't know. It was doing a lot of stuff. So it was definitely above average for me. That gives us an average of 3.92. No mode, but there is apparently a median of 3. So that's exciting. And on to Greater Gotham. First, we'll deal with our Night Terrors books, starting with Nightwing.
I said neutral. I don't remember why. I think just because I think I'm getting a little night terrored out. And it seemed very disconnected from a lot of what's going on. It was fine. There was nothing, it was fine. but there was nothing special about it. There was nothing that made me feel like, oh, poor Dickie. It was just a nightmare. Nightwing's in Gotham or in Arkham, and stuff is crazy. It was very nightmare-y. That was one of the other ones that definitely felt like a real nightmare, but I just felt no significance to it. So neutral.
I will say neutral also, but for different reasons. I don't think we needed another Batman's Dead story. We already got that in the Joker issue. They could have come up with something else. So the story was good, but I just don't think we needed a second "Oh, Batman is Dead" story. So
I tend to agree. I'm actually going to say thumbs down because for two reasons. One is I don't think that the story really offered a whole lot. But worse, the solicitations promised that the Batgirls would show up, and instead we got Robo-Babs, and that was a huge letdown. So, no. Moving on to Night Terrors, Catwoman #1.
Oh gosh, thumbs down. Thumbs down. Oh my gosh, what was this? First of all, I don't know what she's dreaming. Somehow this is supposed to be the past.
No, it's supposed to be a combination of the past and the future.
I know, but still, it was
super dumb.
I've never read a Bat-Cat hookup that pissed me off as much as this one.
Ooh, tell me more. Why did it make you so mad?
It was sleazy and...
It was kind of sleazy.
And I don't know. This was one of those frustrating dreams. Like when nothing makes sense. And so just real question, is Maggie actually a nun-vigilante or is that... No. Okay. I thought I maybe had missed something. Okay.
Unless again, I also missed something, I'm pretty sure that's just a dream.
Well, no, Sister Zero is a true character.
Oh, really?
In DC continuity, yes.
But like from the past?
Yes.
Yeah, because the last time we saw Maggie, they were on this like sister road trip, and Maggie's still mostly catatonic.
Sister Zero is an actual character.
Okay.
That Maggie portrayed.
Okay. Wow.
In the 80s, though.
But it's still a nightmare. It's still a nightmare. So I can't fault it for anything in the story that I don't like because it's a nightmare and it's a dream and so whatever. But I did not enjoy any part of this at all. And the cover art made me so uncomfortable. I can't even tell you. The
main cover.
The main cover was so nasty. Like, blah.
You know, we talk about Greg Land tracing from pornography. This cover seemed very much like it was traced from the same source, and I did not like it. I did not think it was appropriate or appealing. It was gross.
It was gross. So thumbs down, 100%. All my thumbs.
All my thumbs down.
Definitely thumbs down, and it's a double thumbs down to Ian Miller because he was supposed to...
I didn't read it fast enough to tell him not to read it.
And just for the sake, since I was enjoying most of Night Terrors already, he didn't say anything, so I lost 10 minutes of my life reading that crap, and I don't know who or what Teenie Howard does to keep writing, but and I said what I said.
You said what you said.
This is, yes, a huge thumbs down, although I will say it's less of a thumbs down than the actual Catwoman title, which gives you a sort of a hint of how bad the actual Catwoman title is.
That's true.
This is stupid as heck. It is a blending of future Catwoman who's lost an eye, because you always got to show someone losing an eye to show that it got dark and serious. But also it's got Batman Year One Batman hanging around, which is beyond bizarre because Tom King already did this story multiple times, many times better than Teenie Howard could ever get close to, and there's just nothing redeeming about this story. And the art is extremely chaotic and not particularly... It does not make sense. It's not a good story, and I will freely admit I was not expecting it to be a good story, but I was disappointed that I was right.
Like, there were elements in here that I normally would totally be on board for. And again, this is the Nightmare arc. Everyone's book is weird. Nothing in anyone's books makes sense. That I tried really hard to forgive that. But it was just so bad and not interesting. And I just... Blah.
Yep.
Blah.
And Theo, I do not recommend you read the second one. So don't blame me for that one.
Will not.
Punchline number 1.
What did I say? Oh, neutral, probably for the same reasons as Nightwing, I guess. I don't understand why we're getting a Punchline book. And
For the same reason we got Angel Breaker.
Angel Breaker was interesting.
We're gonna get there. Don't jump ahead.
No, but to me there just doesn't seem to be, unless this is also Barbara's book.
Which would be bizarre.
Which would be bizarre, but it would explain it, because I would think for
Yes,
both
that's
of
true.
them that would be their nightmare. For one, it's very interesting to see that Alexa's nightmare is in fact being chased by the undead. I thought that was actually kind of interesting. I would expect her nightmare to be along the same line as Joker's, and Poison Ivy's. But if this is in fact Barbara's book, having her fail at staying alive and then become a villain of sorts would be very interesting. But anyway, neutral for now.
Abstain.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, it was a good idea.
It's a thumbs down for me because it feels really rehashed. It's not as aggressively bad as Catwoman, but it feels really stale and done and nothing really new. I did think the art was nice, so it's not like everything was terrible, but it just feels completely unnecessary. And since we didn't have a Punchline book before, and this definitely doesn't connect to the last time we saw Punchline with the Gotham game stuff, it just doesn't feel well thought through at all. And our last Night Terrors Greater Gotham, before we get to our regular Batman books, is Angel Breaker, which we sort of talked about, but I hopefully forestalled the discussion so we can have it fresh now.
For me, thumbs up. I mean, I was not expecting... She's actually on the trail of trying to help figure this thing out. I liked the random Cobra child acolytes. That was kind of interesting. I like that this book is sort of semi-conscientious of what's going on in the storyline and is trying to affect the main story, which I thought was and it was engaging. And I liked who's the guy that she's with?
Raptor.
I liked Raptor and Angel Breaker's rapport. I don't know. I liked it. I was more engaged with this one than I was Catwoman and Punchline and Nightwing.
It is a neutral for me. I thought the story was fine, but kind of like what Steph mentioned earlier, I kind of thought this art was a little too cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Akibite does have a very cartoony style. This is a thumbs up for me. I was excited about this because everyone knows that Angel Breaker is my favorite shirtless wonder. And this actually doesn't go too deep into that. It's not super over sexy, but I like the world building. I liked the fact that it does seem to be a lot more conscious of being part of Night Terrors rather than just being what if they had a generic nightmare? And it also does a lot better job of actually developing Angel Breaker as a character. I mean, the connection to the Nightwing run with Raptor helps a lot because, of course, Tim Seeley created Raptor as part of that Nightwing run. But I think this is really good. I'm excited to find how this ends up. That brings us to an end of our Night Terrors for part 2. How do you think Night Terrors ended up the month?
These were a lot weaker. These definitely were not, as a whole, were not as good. I think Tech was very interesting. Angel Breaker definitely tied into the main book, which at least the main book was very good. But yeah, all of the supplementary books were either, for me, either neutrals or thumbs downs because they just weren't as high quality. I'm very glad we started on a very high note because it got me through this week.
Wait, which book is this again?
All of them.
We're just doing a wrap up of Night Terrors Part 2.
Kind of iffy. If I had to do a thumbs up, thumbs down, it probably would be a thumbs down. Only because of Catwoman. That was so bad.
I think I would say this is definitely weaker, but that's probably because the first 2 weeks were so strong. Like there was just so many books that were really fun to read, and this one there was just like 2, which was the main book. That's important that the main book is still fun to read, but also Angel Breaker is the only other book that I thought was really worth the time I spent on it. So that's a bummer. I'm sure that editorial thinks all the books are interesting, so like I don't know. I don't expect them to put out books they think are boring, but it feels like they did anyway. Yeah, it's kind of a neutral for me overall on the second half of the first month of Night Terrors. Let's hope that the first half of next month is a return to form, and also that they can pick up the pace for the last half of the event. I mean, the last quarter of the event. Let's move on to our regular Greater Gotham books, starting with Batman Beyond Neo Gothic #1. So this is the sequel to Neo Year 1. Same writers, I think a new artist.
I missed this one. I did not find this one.
Oh man, I think you're actually going to like it.
Yeah, I hope so. I liked the first one. I think I bought the first one.
Yeah.
Abstain.
So I read this and I enjoyed it. Definitely followed up from the last miniseries. Like tons of stuff continues, including relationships and sort of where Gotham is several months after the events of Neo Year. Like Neo Year, it does kind of is more setup-y, so it's a little hard to figure out where it's all going overall. And I can't tell if this is supposed to be a miniseries or if it's an ongoing. But I'm definitely on board for a bit more. Batman, The Brave and the Bold, #3.
I ran out of time and sacrificially sacrificed this book on the altar of time. I did not read it. I don't feel like I missed out.
It's a neutral for me. I think this book has the potential of being way better than Urban Legends if they could avoid some of the, I'll just use the word filler or garbage, however you want to call it. Because, I mean, that Superman story is just meh.
Well, and speaking of which, is the Tom King story taking a break?
Yes, it is, and I
Okay.
don't know why.
Yep.
Because I did start to read it, and I was like, I don't
Where's the
remember
Tom King Joker story?
Is this the Tom King story? No, it's not. That's weird.
Thumbs down. This is trash. This is pointless. And I hate the fact that DC is doing Urban Legends Part 2. And this is even worse. So stop it, DC. Stop doing this. Give me Batman Chronicles back with 3 10 to 15 page stories. Stop giving me $8 books with 2 20-page stories and 2 10-page stories, because the 20-page stories are way too long and the 10-page stories are pointless. This is trash. I hate it. Batman White Knight Presents Generation Joker #3. And holy cow, that's a long title. Can they cut it down a little bit?
Thumbs up. I enjoyed this one. It was cute. It's interesting seeing the kids kind of change and flip who they are becoming a little bit. But no, I enjoyed this. It's a fun little caper, and everyone's chasing each other, and the kids are staying at everyone's reach. It's very, I don't know, not Disney movie, but it's something, and I'm enjoying it. It's cute. I'm really enjoying this one. The art was meh, but it was good.
Thumbs up. I really enjoyed the interaction between Harley and I guess her new name is Riot. Because don't call her Neo. I thought that interaction was really good with the former Harley Quinns. I don't know my opinion about Jackie and Bryce. I don't know. I still think in the end, Jack comes back, but comes back as a Joker, which, man, I guess brings things full circle. But yeah, still a thumbs up. Still good story.
I feel like that would be so sad. I feel like that would destroy, I don't know, the point of the entire universe. That would make me very sad.
Well, at
I
least
think now that he has something to live for after he's dead, that would make me sad.
And I sadly could not read this. I was not able to get this from the copies we have, so I am looking forward to reading it, but I don't have an opinion yet. That brings us to the end of Greater Gotham. I have a few pieces of feedback from the Discord. Heath Fodor says, I've really enjoyed the podcast the last few months. At my overnight job, I can listen to music, podcasts, etc. I really like your balanced reviews of everything Batman related. You read Detective Comics, so I don't have to, lol.
Meow. You're welcome.
I'm enjoying it, even though I'm also frustrated, but my co-hosts could probably do with a break. Unfortunately, since Ramvi is now exclusive to DC, we're probably not getting one for a year.
Cry. Sob.
Halo Tigran says, Ian, there was a moment when you were impersonating Deadman that sounded like Ray Romano. Please lean into that. I want that to be Boston Brand's voice in my headcanon. Unfortunately, I didn't prep the Night Terrors recap well enough, but I will try to do that for our next episode. A lot of good conversation in general. But yeah, those are the 2 comments we got on the Discord. We are more than happy to read more comments if people have them. And we're really glad that we allow you to keep up on the titles if you're too busy or don't have the funds, or if you're just working overnights and that kind of stuff. So thank you for writing in, guys. Lastly, I want to thank our patrons. You donate at a certain level per month, you get a thanks on all our podcasts. And so here we go. Thank you to Lisa Slack, Donovan Morgan Grant, Johnny McCloskey, Ian Miller, Stanton's Grave, Cesar Diaz, Gerald Green, Ed Grouse, Jessica Morales, Joshua Laffin Bertoni, Captain America, David Richards, Rob O, Caspian73, Donald Townsend, and Stephanie Mounts. You help us keep the podcast archive up so you guys can go back and listen to stuff that you may have missed or keep up with the podcast in general. We really appreciate it. Makes us feel like we're not podcasting into the void.
Void. Sorry.
And with that, we are at the end of our Batman Universe comic podcast, season 15, episode 14 recording. This is Ian.
This is Steph.
And this is Theo.
And thank you for listening. We'll be back next time with more Night Terrors.